I think trust really is built over time. I'd say it's like putting coins in the bank. But if we're very open with our communication and we all have to work on it and we're very open and honest with our communication and people are honouring what they say and people fill in, then the trust is built over time.
Yes. Welcome to the Human Side of Business podcast with me, Louisa Meehan. We're exploring real stories from the trenches of people management. Each episode explores the situations business leaders have actually faced, the wins that surprised them, the failures that taught them, the funny moments that kept them sane, and the challenging times that tested their resolve. We dig into what worked, what spectacularly didn't work, and the lessons learned along the way. This is about the messy, unpredictable, rewarding reality of managing humans, not the sanitized version you read about in business books.
I'm delighted to be joined today by Sharon Farrell. She is the founding and managing director of Face Credit, which is an award-winning Kildare-based credit management consultancy company operating across Ireland and the UK. With more than 25 years in the credit industry, Sharon works closely with business owners to improve cash flow, strengthen credit processes, and protect customer relationships. Known for her practical, ethical, and straight-talking approach, Sharon is passionate about helping SMEs build sustainable, profitable businesses while supporting strong teams and long-term growth.
Yay.
It's a lovely intro. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Brilliant to be here. Thanks a million.
Amazing. Listen, one of the reasons why I reached out, Sharon, is that you work sort of similar to myself, and a lot of people don't necessarily want to do some of the harder side of HR. You certainly work in a side of accounts that a lot of people, even accountants, don't enjoy doing. I know I don't enjoy doing it. Doing your credit control, we all need the money, but it's hard. And yet you always have a smile on your face anytime I see you. And you seem to have a really engaged team. So I wanted to talk to you about how you prioritize developing a happy team in what most people would consider to be not the happiest of types of work to be doing.
Yeah. I think, thanks a million for inviting me on. And I think this is something that I'm really passionate about. I've worked in credit for over 25 years. And when I started in credit, they always said, you know, the person that shouts the loudest gets paid first and all of these kind of phrases. And it was seen as a very aggressive role. And that just didn't work for me. When I was younger, I had a background in hospitality. And I always found, you know, to get round people, to be able to talk to them, meet them where they're at. So when I started in the role, it was actually by accident. I was working in an accounts team and I could see guys coming to the trade counter that owed money. And so I knew because I was looking at the debtors ledger and then they'd come up to the trade counter. Just because I had an ability or I liked talking to people, I'd go up and I'd say, lads, look, there's a few bob outstanding. Can you sort that out before we give you your order? I was actually about 22, 23. So that's where I started. Then they gave me responsibility for the debtor book and they sent me on the training courses. But the training courses that I went on didn't mirror what I was finding worked.
Okay.
So I developed, I suppose, my own way of doing it, which worked. So meeting people where they're at, you know, talking to them about what's outstanding, non-aggressive, really open communication, trying to find out the problems, why they're not paying. Is it a cash flow issue? Is it an issue with the product or service? What it is, then I looked like feeding that back into the business. Okay, we've a repeat problem here. People aren't paying because this product isn't working. We're either mis-selling it or it isn't working.
Yeah.
So that was the very beginning of my career. I love talking to people. So that is the way I view credit control, and I don't see it as aggressive. It's not difficult for me to do. I built a very strong career. That was an SME. I worked in multinationals, Diageo, Nestle, Rentokil, and I travelled all around the world training teams when I worked in Rentokil on what they were looking for, this magic pill of what's your process. And I just was explaining it's how you speak to people and how you deal with them. So I was hugely successful with a very happy team, when I worked in multinationals, because look, that's my approach to everything. If people are happy, they'll pay, they're happy to pay. And if people are happy at work, they perform well. So when I started Face Credit, it was all those 20 odd years of experience that I had. I'm probably close to 30 now, 30 years experience that I just brought into the business. And I don't see it as an awful part of work or business. I think it's very, very important. But I feel the time now for my style of credit control is just the timing is right, because people are looking for more customer experience. They're customer focused. And I really feel that when you're asking for money, that needs to mirror the onboarding process. So people should feel the same. There shouldn't be, we're very aggressive when we're asking for money, but we love you when we're asking for the sale. So that
Yes.
communication piece should be mirrored all the way through, should be respectful, should make people feel good, asking loads of questions, meet them where they're at. The very same as we would with a sales call, I believe that credit should be handled in the same way. So if you
And
listen to us here, most conversations are really nice.
most conversations are really
Most.
nice. It comes back, doesn't it, to the organizational values. One of the things, that strikes me in what you're saying is, well, two things. One, it's a really good idea to get a business doing things that other people don't enjoy doing when you
Yes.
actually do. But also that a core fundamental element of what you're doing focuses on the organizational values and making sure that the touch points for the client align with the values of the organization throughout the process, even when it comes to money, and that's incredibly important. How do you bring that, I suppose, into your own organization with your own team?
I think I'll be very honest, right? When I worked in corporate, I was a single mum and it was so tough. We had 9 to 5. It didn't matter. You could not bring work, your home life into work. And I just felt that I was constantly under pressure. So I had to always make the sacrifices with the children, miss school plays, missed parent teacher meetings, missed whatever it was, because I had to be in work. And look, it wasn't 9 to 5. It was 9 to whenever you were needed.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of travel with work. And I really felt that I would have performed better and I would have stayed longer in jobs and I would have progressed if I was given a little bit of leeway, and it just would have taken so much pressure off me. So I believe that when women have children or decide to have a family, or it might not be a family, that the weight of the family responsibility a lot of the time, and not in all cases, sits with women.
Yeah.
And when we looked, there was studies that I looked at during the pandemic, and even in the academic world, women produced less, they wrote less because they were at home and they were looking after probably their children. Yeah. So when my children, my eldest now is 30, when I started Face Credit, I said, I really, really want to create a business where brilliant women can excel, but can also have a family and not make the sacrifice for two. Yeah. And I knew that if I was ever given that opportunity in corporate, I would have worked harder, because I would have really enjoyed that hour off to go to the school play, or that hour off for sports day, or to drop the children in the morning if they were having a bad day. So I decided when I started Face Credit that was one thing I was really going to work hard on. And it is hard work to manage those flexible hours. Because, we really need to be very strong on communication. If somebody's not coming in till 10 o'clock, the rest of the team need to know that, and phones are covered and emails are covered. But if we're committed to that, and as a team they are committed to that, we are able to have brilliant women. And I'm not talking pity party, we employ people, brilliant women that just need flexibility for their families or for their personal life. So that was my core when I started the business. I was so strong on that. And we have worked hard for 7 years to build a team where we get women who, for whatever reason, whether it be looking after elderly parents or their family, need flexibility. And not everybody does. And we offer that here. So that was the core of what I wanted. And I was very strong on that. So that is what we have created. And amongst that, because we need to be so strong on communication, I think it really bonds and gels the team together. I really feel that it does, and people are very honest. So nobody's trying to slip out 5 minutes early because it's allowed. So someone can
Yeah.
say, I need to go at 4:30 today, girls, because I have a blah.
Yeah.
And nobody bats an eyelid. Nobody's saying behind their back, oh, she's going early again. There isn't that, because the work, they make it up, they cover somebody else, and there's that open communication with the team. So I think that is where it came from, and that's how we managed to create such a wonderful culture in the team.
I can relate so much to what you're saying, because for me, I was also in the corporate world in HR, and when I was pregnant with my second son, who's now 12, he'll be 13 this summer, I was in a lucky position that I could take voluntary redundancy, but I did that knowing that we'd be okay for a period, but not knowing ultimately if we would be able to pay our mortgage.
Yeah.
And look at me now, because I had to go and carve that for myself, a situation where I could have flexibility, because my priority, and it's as they're getting older, it's not that they're not my priority, but it shifts definitely. I can put more focus into my business, but definitely in those first early years until they were both in school, my priority was absolutely their needs,
Mm.
and everything else was secondary. And any work I did had to fit around them. And that was a choice, a very lucky choice that I could make, because I do think a lot of women, and maybe men, would choose more flexibility to enable them to have a more balanced, caring life if they had the opportunity. And if I had flexibility in my job in the corporate world that I was in, would I have stayed? I probably would have. I
Mm.
don't regret leaving, because I wouldn't be where I am today. I'm so happy it's worked out. But it was comfortable. I had a good salary. I had amazing benefits that are irreplaceable. I can never replace those benefits. So if I'd had flexibility, I probably would have stayed.
Yeah.
So I suppose I was lucky that I didn't have it, because it forced me down a different path. But I really understand what you're saying in terms of that. And I think the fundamental value, you talk about communication, and communication is almost a skill set that you have or a task that you do. But the fundamental value that I see coming through from what you've said is about trust,
Yeah.
that you have to trust each other, that you have to trust in each other. And would that be something that you would agree with, or what do you think?
Yeah, and I think trust really is built over time. I'd say it's like putting coins in the bank. But if we're very open with our communication, where we're very, and we all have to work on it, and we're very open and honest with our communication, and people are honouring what they say, and people fill in, then the trust is built over time.
Yes.
And I always see when people come in, so when we have a new team member onboarding and we say, look, we offer flexibility, flexible working hours, they don't think that we really do, because people say it but don't do it. But I just have to make up that error. And nobody says anything, and it's not a big, they just have to let the team know, because 90% of the time they don't even need to let me know. They just need to let each other know, so that cover is given.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then trust is built over time with each other and with me and the team. So it does take work. It's not all la la and roses in the garden. It does take work and structure, because we have to make sure that phones are covered and that clients are looked after and everything is maintained. So it takes work. But if you are committed to what I said I was going to do, which I am, then it works. And as the team, are growing and we have a bigger team, I'm less needed in that side of it, because then they know how it works, and then they explain to new people, "No, you can't just leave your desk. You need to let somebody know, and your phone is covered."
Yeah.
So I think that piece, and like what you get back from the team, Louisa, is just fantastic, because people want to come in, they want to do a good job, they're really happy that they have flexibility, and they're not going to take the piss. And
Yeah.
everybody says to me, are you not worried about that? No, because if that's your mindset, then you're worried if somebody's going to steal 10 minutes on you, then that's never going to work for you.
Yeah.
So
And
that,
like, as much as you have to build trust in them, they have to build trust in you. And
yeah,
it's, if somebody breaks it, then you deal with that. You can address those
precisely.
issues. You don't take it away from everybody because somebody slipped or had a mistake or
Yeah.
something went wrong. And I think that's the piece that people can miss out on sometimes.
Yeah. And I think like that, I would have seen in corporate where, somebody made a mistake and it was taken off everybody. We're not doing this anymore. So I'll deal with one individual and we'll talk about that and see where it went wrong. And it doesn't work for everybody. Like
Yes.
some people come in 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, but it works for some people.
Yeah.
But as a team, we're committed to it. And if there is a slip, and there has been things, times where we've had to readdress it and talk about it as a team, but we're very upfront about it. There's no this hiding behind and talking about each other behind their back. We're very upfront about, okay, what went wrong there? Where did we fall down? What wasn't communicated? And what can we do to improve that for going forward?
And it sounds to me, um, from what I've observed of looking at you or following you online for the last while, it sounds to me like that's the approach that you take with your clients in terms of dealing with money coming in, actually.
Yeah.
It's about building trust, communication, and dealing with things when they go wrong quickly.
Yeah, and having those tough conversations. So
Yeah.
there are times that we do need to have tough conversations with our clients if money isn't paid. But I think if we build enough of a robust process to catch things, then we see it, then we have the tough conversation early on. So I think that's really important, and we can see it in the team that we're very open with our communication. And there was one lady that started with us recently, and she had worked in the healthcare sector, and she said, when we did our first kind of 3-month feedback, she said, it's a very different working environment. She said, everybody is so different. Everybody is so strong in their personality. But she said, there is no way of going on. There's no sort of click. She said,
Yeah.
it's really big personalities, but it's really nice. But she said the open and honesty was a shock because
Yeah, because people
everybody
aren't
holds
used
each
to
other
it.
accountable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Which is, it's
so
different, isn't it? And
yeah,
it takes so much, it means, managing people, I certainly hear in my line of work, um, people say to me that managing people and stock are the two most difficult things that they have to do. I would say that's because they don't think about credit unless they have no choice. They try and get somebody else to do that.
yeah,
Um, but if you can create an environment where there is self-regulation within the team, then that takes a lot of the burden off you as the leader in terms of the amount of management you have to do,
yeah,
and you can do more leadership and more driving the
yeah,
team forward,
yeah.
you know?
And people are, if you give people, so I suppose holding people accountable is really important. They hold each other accountable. And
Yeah.
most people like that. So been very clear, as I said, on the processes that we have in the business and the expectations. And people, but nobody should need to be micromanaged. And if they are, for me in my business, they're not going to work here. I
Yes.
don't want to micromanage anybody. I'm not interested in that scenario. We build processes and the work should get done. That doesn't mean that it's all roses in the garden, as I said, but that's a kind of fundamental. And then we build off that. It's the exact same thing for credit. If you build a robust policy, if you're very clear on your communication, if you're having tough conversations early on, if there's consequences for one debtor not paying, and not everybody, then things run smoothly.
Yeah.
And I suppose I run to the two of them very similar.
Yeah. I
And I
no, I
think,
really like that approach. I think it's
yeah,
so important to be really clear and the consequences. And that reminds me of something that you shared recently online about talking about the comparison that you had noticed upon reflection of some of the learnings you've had as a mum and as a leader. So I don't know if you'd like to elaborate on that here because
yeah. I think so. I have two older children. So one is 30 and one is 26. And then I have two younger children, 10 and 11. And I definitely am less hands on now. I think people are more capable than we think. And if I get in and fix, and I am a fixer,
yeah,
so get in, I'll do it and I'll show you. But I think if we step back and allow people to make mistakes, we allow people to learn, to be in difficult situations. And I think that's one thing that I really struggled with, is to allow them to be uncomfortable, either my children or the team members. And yes, I have very different relationships with both, but I'm in a position of leadership in both.
yeah, yeah,
And I think stepping back and allowing people to be uncomfortable and to struggle a little bit. I think there's a generation of over coddling is not good. Um, I think. So allowing them to be a little bit uncomfortable, that's where we learn. That's where I've learned.
Yeah.
I've learned sitting at a boardroom table, been under pressure, rash, sweating, had to think on my feet. Nobody was coming to rescue me. That's where I learned. And because we have such a nice working environment here, sometimes in the early days, I was stepping in and doing. So sitting back and it's uncomfortable to watch somebody being uncomfortable, but that's where growth happens. So that's what I've learned. And I think people develop skills there, learning that they're not going to develop if we're all the time running in, rescuing our children. We don't want them to feel hurt. They have to. They're going to feel in school that people don't like them. That's normal.
It is normal. It is. And it's, I mean, I think you should have worked in HR, really.
Oh,
But, being a fixer is something that I can absolutely, it's part of working in HR. It's just part of who I am. And it's really hard to not do that.
yeah,
And I've noticed, certainly as a mum, I've noticed that my eldest is 15 and my youngest is 12. And my eldest in particular has asked me, through his secondary school journey, he's like, no, you need to take a step back. I love that you're there for me, but let me go do it. Don't ring the teacher. Don't
yeah,
interfere. Don't give me help. And I'm like, okay. And
yeah,
I've tried to take the leadership from him and go, okay, if you want to go do it. But that does mean going, well, if you fail, you fail. It's not on me. It's on you. If something goes wrong, we'll help you fix it, but you can't come back to me and say it was my fault. And
yeah.
when you're going in and you're fixing everything and you're doing all the things for all the people all the time, whenever it goes wrong, then it's all your fault.
And I think with children as well, if we're fixing too much, they don't have the confidence to believe that they can do it themselves.
Yeah.
So if something goes wrong, they have an ability to fix it. They have an ability to feel uncomfortable. They learn, okay, if this happens, that's what I need to do. And it builds confidence in children because they know, okay, I am able and my mom believes in me enough to let me do it.
Yes.
And if something goes wrong, I learn how to fix it, or I learn, okay, what did I do wrong there? But if we're constantly fixing for our children, by the time they get to 20, they're looking for somebody to do something for them that isn't there. So suddenly we're allowing them into the big bad world at 18 off to university or find jobs. And we've done everything for them their whole lives. So I think allowing them to do things themselves builds confidence, builds self-esteem deeply inside them.
Yeah.
Because they know if something goes wrong, I'll know what to do. I'll fix it. I'll sort it out. Because I've fixed things before. But if they're constantly going back to a parent to fix, and the parent is there all the time doing, fixing, phoning to school, dealing with the thing, they don't know how to deal with anything.
Yeah.
And so I saw that in my older children. Now they were very independent because they had to be. But I'm learning that, and I see, like I was on a school bus one day and I saw these parents. The kids were about 8, and they were buckling them in, and I just thought, just get off what are you doing on the bus? Get off, let them, and they don't need that level of you doing that for them. I think it chips away at their self-esteem. It chips away at their ability to problem solve, to deal with difficult situations. And then they're very anxious because if anything goes wrong, it feels so traumatic.
Yeah. I think, as you said, I mean, granted, we're chatting about children, but it's the exact same thing that happens with a leader, with a team, particularly if you have a team member who's newer, inexperienced, or a lot less experienced than you are. You have the urge to help, to fix, to problem solve for them, and then they don't fix it. They can't do it themselves. And so one of the things that I try and say to leaders is, at some point, and you have to judge when is the appropriate time, but at some point, it's a really good idea to not be there, because if you're there and if that has been your role, you need to remove yourself to empower them to do it without you. And that could be as simple as, book yourself, go to the Bahamas for 2 weeks, turn off your phone and say, call me if the place burns down. Otherwise, whatever you do, if there's a problem, we can correct it when I come back. It's okay. And then they learn that they have the ability to do it, and they'll make mistakes, but they learn that confidence, as you say, in relation to that. So in that, guys, do you step away from your business on occasion and just leave your team to it, or how do you handle that?
Okay, so the early days, no, absolutely no. I didn't. And that's why I wrote that piece, because probably in the early days with my two first, I didn't let anyone mind them. Nobody could bat them. I was the only one to put them to bed. Mammy, mammy, mammy. The very similar. And I just saw that trait in me. It's like, I just can do it and I'm quick and I'm competent, and yeah, same in the business. So in the early days, absolutely not. But I'm very reflective. And so I started to, if they were on chat and asked me a question, just not answer. They'll tell you
Yeah.
this, they know. I just stopped answering those questions and saw that they sorted it themselves. So I started to do those little testers with them just to see, can they figure it out? And they can, of course they can. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that bright that I'm the only one that can run the business.
Of course you are.
So it's like, I'm not actually that clever. So I started that way. And again, I'm going back to putting processes in the business, documenting. What we do here is we document our processes, but we also create small little videos on how to.
Oh, I love that.
So there's a little video for everything with every client on how to. So I documented everything, and then stepping away slowly, giving people more responsibilities, so first of all, starting a business, I think most people are the same. We think we're the only one that can do it. Nobody can do it as good as us, yada, yada, yada. We think that because we don't take the time to document exactly what it is that we are doing. So if we don't take that time to document what we do and how we do this, nobody's ever going to know, because nobody has really explained it or created a process. So that was the first thing that I did. So when I created the process, then we mapped that out. I wrote down, this is exactly how we do it. Now we create small little videos for the business on how to, and they're short, 1-2 minutes. So how to print an invoice, for instance, how to record a podcast. So I create a process for everything that is there. And then I start to give responsibility to people. You don't want to show people your numbers, your pricing in the early days. All of that is just so crazy. You keep it all to yourself.
Yeah.
But as the business started to grow, I looked at the 3 pillars of my business: sales and marketing. So we've sales, marketing, finance and operations. So sales and marketing is one, the financial side of the business and the operation side. And I was doing everything, plus HR, plus buying stamps, plus buying toilet roll, plus making sure we had tea and coffee and liaising with every single client. So you reach a point that you think, okay, if I want my business to scale, I am going to have to offload some of this work.
Yeah.
So I looked at those 3 pillars of the business, again, documented a process for each. And then at a team meeting about 1.5 years ago, or maybe a year ago, I said, okay, is there anybody that would like to do something with marketing? Hands up. I would love to give that a go, Sharon. I see things that you're doing. I have great ideas. Okay. And I did it for finance. One girl that I know, like, we're in accounts business, really strong on finance. She said, I'd love to give you a hand with that. Same with operations and the same with sales. So then I started to let go of the reins and I started to give them a little piece extra. And again, for them to have that trust, they knew I believed in them.
Yeah.
Yes, there was teething problems in the beginning, but we worked through them. And that enables me now to be able to step back and say, okay, somebody's looking after sales, somebody's looking at finance, operations, marketing, but we have a process.
Yes.
It's not just, the business has to be ready for you to step back. And the only way the business is going to be ready for you to step back if people know what they're supposed to be doing. And if they forget, it's documented.
Yeah.
There is a process for everything.
It's so simple. I mean, it's such a simple concept. And yet it is probably one of the ones I see overlooked the most. And I fall foul of this myself sometimes, in setting out clear expectations on what is required, which is what you're talking to, really.
Yeah.
And we think because it's in our head and we say, go do XYZ, we can, with best of intentions, we can make an assumption that they know what's in our head and they can go do it the way that we want or something similar to it. But they haven't got a clue what's in our head.
No.
They've never done it before. And, you've talked about sort of being in corporate for 20 years, then setting up your business. So someone might look at you and say, why is she so successful? Look at how quickly she's done this. Look at, like, it's an overnight success. That sort of sense of how amazing you are, that you've some sort of, I don't know, special trait. And it's not that. It's a long hog of learning, hard knocks, and figuring it out. And we can ourselves, I think, forget that as leaders, with 20, 30 years experience, that with that experience, we know some things that other people don't know.
Exactly. I forget that all the time because it just makes sense to us. We're like, how do
Yeah,
you not know that?
it's so
But
obvious.
yeah, but obvious to us. And I think that's where, when I push myself, when I say to myself, nobody else can do this, I say, you're just being ridiculous now. But you see, the reason we don't do it is because it takes so much time to document stuff and really write down what am I doing.
Yes,
That
I have
takes
noticed
so
this.
much time.
Yeah,
And like everybody says, work on the business, not in the business. Stepping away is harder than you think because it
it's
takes time.
yes, and and when you're a small business, as I am, if I'm not working in my business, I don't get paid.
Yeah.
Like, so it's
Yeah.
all good and well to say work on my business, but I have to pay for the groceries at the end of the month too.
Yeah.
So there has to be a balance between the two things. And I know this is something I'm actually behind you on in terms of what I'm doing, but it's not something I find easy to do. So I have someone who helps me do it. So she's working with me on documenting my processes. So she'll ask me the questions and sort of, she'll follow what I'm doing and track it and then document it, and we're building it up. So I think it's incredibly important. I have to oversee it and have input to it, but I don't have to do it, because
Brilliant.
if I have to do it, it will never
It
be
will
done.
never get done.
It'll,
Hence
it's,
the videos, because
yeah,
the videos make it easy because I'm just going to share my screen and create the video. Makes it way easier for
I'm going
me.
to steal that, and
Yeah.
hopefully lots of people will steal that. It's a
Yeah.
really simple idea, but actually it's so impactful, and it just makes life easy, which I love.
So much easier. And then when somebody new starts, because I was repeating myself when I was onboarding a team member. So now there's videos there. Yes, there's still a touch points with me and maybe a team member, but I don't have to do that. So the videos are there forever and a day. And if something changes, then we just update the videos. The
Yes.
biggest mistake I made in the beginning for everybody that's listening is I created one big, massive, long video. So then somebody was trying to find the bit that they wanted. So say now I just do very, very short videos, 2 minutes max
Yes.
on each thing. And then they pick the one that they want. And
Yeah.
it's just and even if they're following step by step, they have you on the screen and they have another screen there and they can follow step by step. So there's never that panic from me or them if I'm not available.
It's so much easier then, isn't it?
Yeah,
It
way
gives you a lot
easier.
of confidence in the team, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So what is your next step on your leadership journey?
I think the stepping away for me was big. I think it's funny because there was a girl that worked with us in 2022 and she went off traveling. Sophie, she'll be listening, I'm sure. And she came back this year and she came back to work with us, which I was very happy to have her back.
Amazing.
But she said, Sharon, you're much more relaxed now than you were 3 years ago. So I think for me personally, I'm working on myself. Like I'm very reflective, my management style, staying calm, stepping from that manager into the leader, because they're very different
Yeah,
things. And
they
like
are.
that early on in business, we're everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of business owners are. So really looking at who I want to be as a leader, how do I get there? And a lot of self-improvement and self, reflection. So that's what I'm looking at for myself. For the team, I'm really looking at to develop that team from within, promote from within. As I said, within those pillars, sales, marketing, operations and finance, to really help the team grow and develop and become who they want to be and have the careers that they want. So that for me is really, really important. And for the business, we tapped into the UK last year, which was a big success. So to grow that market in the UK, but also I suppose our bread and butter has been the outsourced credit control. We're seeing this year we've more consultancy. We're bringing online training for SMEs and for teams around, what does a good phone call look like? How do I close a call? What am I doing wrong on the phone? How do I even make
Yeah.
a phone call?
Yes.
So the measuring of success for teams. What does success look like in a credit team? How do we build a successful team? How do we report back to our financial director? You know, how do we look at these stats and turn them into something exciting? Because it's seen as the boring side of the business. It's not sexy. It's not sales and marketing. It's finance and it's collections. So, you know, how to profile your team within a large organisation as being a successful team and a team that's adding something to the business. So really looking at that online training piece for 2026, the consultancy piece, and really just growing the business, looking at other markets. We're looking at Canada. We're just looking. I'm not saying that we're going there, we're just looking. But just to see how we can really scale the business, but scale the business in a calm, not manic way.
In a controlled way.
Yeah, because I think I see a lot of businesses growing very fast. And for me, I just can't live with that panic. I've done it and I just can't. So it's to make sure that, you know, ideally this year we're going to onboard team members before we need them, have them trained, have them up and running to our standards, so that we're always a step ahead, so we can really put the foot on the accelerator and go, knowing that we have that team there to look after our clients as we onboard them.
Well, that is phenomenal. And it's probably what your clients need in their organizations as well.
Yeah. And look, we got to see, it's amazing because we get to see under the bonnet of cars of the business. You know, we're looking underneath at businesses, so many different industries, construction, finance. Like, we just get to see great businesses with great ideas, and we get to partner with them. So I love what we do. I love the way the business is going. And look, money is the most important thing in any business. I don't care. We can talk about culture. We can't have a good culture. We've no money to pay the staff. So being able to bring money back into businesses in a way that keeps their clients happy, that's in line with their communication style and their ethos, is just so rewarding. So I love what we're doing. I think this year is going to be a really big year for us. But we've put the foundations in. And I would say to anybody who's starting off on their business journey, stop listening to the jargon, work on the business, not in it. Think about, you know, how am I going to get from here to there, and building those processes and having some thought into it is really, really important. Because if you walk out and they're not there, it's not going to work. So really take the time to look at how I am going to be able to start working on the business. What does that look like? And who do I need to support me on that piece?
It's the solid foundations, I think, you know, basically what are your building blocks? What are your pillars? And they might be slightly different to the ones you have, but broadly the same, and putting in those strengths. Sharon, it's been an absolute pleasure. At the end of our podcast, we have a tradition that we have borrowed from a different business podcast, if you can figure it out, where we ask guests a question that was left by the previous guest without knowing who left the question.
Okay.
So the question left for you was, if you were starting up in business again, would you do the same thing or work in the same industry?
Yes, I would. I would do exactly this. I think, like people say, do what you love, and I actually think it's do what you're good at, and do really look at, am I adding value for somebody? Am I, so is what I'm doing helping a business? Certainly what we are doing. I mean, would I prefer to be doing, I don't know, makeup or something? Yeah, but it's not what I'm good at. I'm good at this. So I think, yes, I would definitely do the same thing again, and in the same industry. Would I do things slightly differently? Probably. I'd probably back myself more. I'd probably do things quicker. But that's easy to say looking back now that I know and I've made all the mistakes and I'm like, I just could have moved faster. But I think you have to go on the journey, enjoy the journey, and learn as you go. You know, you go through it and say, oh, okay. So yes, I would definitely do that if I was starting all over again, 100%.
I actually really agree with you. I think if what we're good at tends to be what we enjoy, and we tend to enjoy what we're good at. And I think focusing on what are we good at doing? How can we hone in on that? How can we develop that it's so important, rather than this notion that you can just pick anything and
that you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love lots of things. I love singing. I can't sing.
I love reading.
I won't sing for anybody.
So,
my children don't like me just saying it. It's never happening. So I hear you. That's a lovely note to end. Sharon, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Very welcome. Thank you.